What's going on, everybody? So we're back live and in full swing with another edition of the Lockdown Defense Sports Studio. And of course, as you know, the time is now. The offseason picks up. This is where a lot of people have been looking forward to. This is where you can see where your team can make, the necessary moves to get in the Super Bowl, to get in that championship, to change things from last year. And I know a lot of people are excited. I'm excited as well. So we're going to get into it today. I have the privilege of breaking down the NFC West for you all, what that will look like this offseason, what the four teams' priorities may be, some predictions that we may see as far as franchise tagging, re-signing, players that may walk as being a sign of the cap casualties. So it's exciting. This is an interesting division to say the least. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. So once again, we're going to be covering everything NFC West today. Who will get tagged? Who will get the bag? Who will resign? Who will resign? Right? What will we see from the NFC West? And I mentioned before, this is an interesting division because for me personally, I don't see a lot of shakeup happening in the division as far as transactions, offseason transactions. You have a little bit of everything in this division, as you'll see. What I mean by that, you have a team like the Los Angeles Rams, who won the division last year, got a playoff victory, had a solid team. They got a veteran quarterback. They're not going to be looking to shake too much up, or are they? Obviously, they had a nice young core on defense. We'll talk a little bit about that when we get into some of those priorities for what they want to look for going forward. But the Rams won the division last year. They have a little bit of cap room, but not much. So what are they going to do? We've heard different rumblings about what's going to happen with Cooper Kupp going forward. They're in an interesting place. Then you have the Seattle Seahawks. They don't have much, if any, room to do anything this year. Of course, we'll go over what their priorities are going to be. They're in the whole negative 16.7 mil over the cap. So clearly, they're going to have to be a little bit creative. They're another one that's in an interesting situation based on their quarterback and their roster. Then you got Arizona, who leads the division with 67.8 mil. A nice quarterback, Kyler Murray. Depending on how you look at him, he's a capable guy in the league. Obviously, they've struggled with the last few years, but they had a nice pick at Harrison. What are they going to look to do with that money? Are they going to look to make some moves? They're going to look to continue to build through the draft. That's going to be interesting. And then finally, in my opinion, what's going to be the team to watch this offseason will be the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, they've been the cream of the crop for the NFC West for the past few years, a long time. But last year, they took a step back. They're another team that's in an interesting situation. They're not getting any older. Are they going to have to, blow the whole thing up? And they have some interesting players that they're going to have to make some decisions on. So that's going to be the most interesting team that I think to watch in the division. But every team that we see has some decisions to make. So we're going to jump right into it. So first and foremost, looking at some of the notable pending free agents for each team, right? First of all, looking at the Los Angeles Rams, right? Alaric Jackson, who stepped in, was a starting left tackle for them last year, played well, was a decent help for that offense, and Matthew Stafford providing good protection for him. They ran the ball well last year as well. He's coming up as a free agent. They're going to want to see, some decisions that are going to have to be made amongst him. Then you got Demarcus Robinson, right? The veteran wide receiver, old dependable, obviously, the top two guys there with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Demarcus Robinson fitting in with Tutu Atwell. His time is up. What will they look to do with him? And then finally on that defensive line, Bobby Brown, who had a pretty solid year. Their defense stepped in big. They had some good rookies and some good young guys. Bobby Brown added to that depth. When we look at the Seattle Seahawks, a lot of veterans, right? Jaron Reed and Laken Tomlinson, both guys that are, good veterans, good locker room guys. They have plenty of experience in the league. Both of them are over 30. What are we looking to do if you're the Seattle Seahawks and you're in no man's land right now, right? They're not a team that's really competing for play or competing for championships right now. They're right on the verge of being, a bubble team on the playoffs. You got some older guys, like I said, with Reed, Laken Tomlinson. How do you want to spend that money? Do you want to bring those vets back or do you want to start getting younger? Arizona Cardinals. That's a team that hasn't done well, these past few years. They've had some sparks every now and then. We talked about it. Some guys that look good with them with their draft. Some nice young receivers. They ran the ball pretty well. But on the defensive side, there's a lot of questions. So Kazir White, the linebacker on that side, he's coming up as a free agent. Will Hernandez on the offensive line, and then also Evan Brown. And finally, the San Francisco 49ers, who I talked about, the most interesting team in the division right now. Charvarius Ward, Dre Greenlaw, Hufanga. Obviously, if these guys are healthy, then this is the cream of the crop once again of not only the NFC West, but of arguably the NFC as a whole. They have not been able to stay healthy. That's the problem. And now they're not going to be able to pay all three of them. So they're going to have some decisions to make. Either way, they're going to lose a guy that they really don't want to lose, but hopefully they'll be able to replace them. We'll get into which guys they're going to have to make decisions about. I think we clearly know which one they're definitely going to bring out from the two. I think they're going to get probably two guys that they bring out. There's actually a guy that I left off this list for notable free agents for the 49ers, Aaron Banks. And that's another guy that they're going to have to make decisions on. So the 49ers have a lot of decisions that they have to make. Like I mentioned before, they've been the cream of the crop for a long time. They have some questions that they need to answer, and they got to figure out where they're going to want to go. So that's really what it comes down to when you look at each one of these teams and the decisions they have to make. What direction do they want to go with their prospective teams? Where are they now with their roster? Where do they see themselves? Do they see themselves competing? Are they trying to get a draft spot? They're going to try to build through the draft. If you're the Arizona Cardinals, do you try to swing on a big free agent and spend some money there? Or do you bring back your core, which hasn't been winning? So it's really a matter of of what is important to the people in that building, and some key decisions are definitely going to have to be made. So now we get into our predictions, right? Here we go. I mentioned this being one of the interesting divisions because I don't see many, if any, franchise tags happening. Why do I say that? Well, a lot of the teams you talk about, the Seahawks, they're in the red already. They don't have the money to make that happen. 49ers, they have too many people that they gotta bring back. So, that tag is just a little too high for them to spend it on anybody right now. I feel like the Cardinals are the one team with the money, but do they have anybody that they're really looking to tag, bring back on that 1 year deal, see how he does? If anybody would get in the division, I feel like it would be Will Hernandez. He's coming off of an injury. I think he's in his early 30s right now. Depending on what's available for them on that offensive line, they may want to bring him back on a short term, lease, see how he does, to get them over the hump until they can, figure out what they want to do with him long term. He's probably the only person in the division that I can see that them making that move for. And I'm not 100% sure or 100% sold that they will do it, but he's the only potential franchise tag that I see here. As far as re-signs, right? The Rams, they have to bring back both of these guys in the trenches. Alaric Jackson, I mentioned before, he's just starting left tackle, getting to protect the backside of Matthew Stafford, run the ball well, solidify that offensive line. You'll be right. And Bobby Brown is key to that defensive rotation on that D line. We've seen what the Eagles did in the playoffs, how important it is to be able to switch guys in and out. They got those young guys, those young pass rushers down in Los Angeles. Bobby Brown is a perfect vet to mix in with them. As far as the Seahawks, right, bringing back Ernest Jones, that vet at linebacker. Same thing with the Cardinals and Kaiser White. Evan Brown, another starting center. You got to bring back your guy who's calling the shots on your offensive line. And then for the 49ers, we talked about this before. I think they're only going to be able to bring back two of those big four guys that we mentioned. Obviously, Dre Greenlaw, he's a given. We saw what that defense looked like without him, and we see what that defense looks like with him. He's the second best, most important player on that team, on that defense, next to the guy who's right next to him in Fred Warner. Bring back Dre Greenlaw, that's a given. And Aaron Banks. We know how important that offensive line is to the 49ers. Aaron Banks is a key staple right next to Trent Williams. Bring him back, which means that they're going to lose out, unfortunately, on probably two guys that are major help for them, Charvarius Ward and Talanoa Hufanga. Both of them, Hufanga battling a lot of injuries. Unfortunately, it's not that the 49ers want to let these guys go, but I think they're easier to replace than Drake Greenlaw and Aaron Banks. And they just don't have the money to pay everybody. So we saw the 49ers actually in the past were a team that, tag somebody and then trade them. We saw them make that move with that's the Chiefs, I'm sorry. But the 49ers maybe, we talked about them a little bit being active in, the trade market. Maybe we'll see that. Maybe we'll see them move some cap money around to try to free up some space, and maybe they can be a little creative and bringing some guys back. But as it stands right now, I think they're probably only going to bring back Greenlaw and Banks. At least I feel like that's their best bet. We talked about the Seahawks. I think they go and they completely rebuild or at least start that process. Jaron Reed and Laken Tomlinson, both guys over their 30s, both vets. I don't think they want to be around for a rebuild. And I'm going to say this. I don't think the Seahawks have their quarterback of the future yet. So until they get that guy, they're going to be in rebuild mode, or at least they're going to start that process. They got some young guys on defense. That's their bread and butter right now. Obviously, some young firecrackers on offense as well. But I don't think that it's worth spending the money on those 30 and up guys right now when they're not in a position to win now. So that's what I see for the NFC West. Like I mentioned before, some interesting things going on. It's going to be, a great competitive division like it always is. The team that I'm going to watch for in the offseason, obviously, is the 49ers, what decisions that they're going to make. And the Rams, obviously, coming back from winning the division last year. They got a nice young team. What is the direction they're going to go with Matthew Stafford? What are they going to do with Cooper Kupp and some of those other guys? I think they're the team to beat going into the offseason. But like I said, keep a close eye on the 49ers. Seahawks and Cardinals, they're really just trying to keep their head above water and compete, and we'll see what happens then. But the Seahawks really don't have a lot of room to make any moves in the offseason. Cardinals with the most room to make. All depends on what direction they want to go. So, I'm looking forward to a great offseason. These are my predictions, and we'll see where we go from here.